Good morning and welcome back to the Home Renovation Experts. Steve here on this 5x3 rhomboid. I like that word, rhomboid. It's a good word to say. Try it. You enjoyed that, I know you did. Rhomboid shaped garden room. So here's what we got to yesterday. So the floor is now down joists and the first layer of insulation is in over here. So the plan now is going to be put the insulation in this section. I will then tape up all the joints with foil. And then it'll be a matter of basically taking the AgriTech floor from over there and sticking it on here. So I'll do a couple of show you YouTubes. Don't know. It's first thing in the morning. I'll give you a couple of how-tos on like how to go about that. But we obviously covered fitting insulation and the joists in yesterday's video. If you want to have a look at that, it's I don't know, somewhere up there, but well, it will be. But apart from that, it's just crack on. So I've got a cup of tea from the client, so already very happy. So I'm going to grab a couple of these boards, stick them on my trestles here, and start cracking on, getting these boards in. Oh yes. Righty dokie, so that is all these boards obviously now in and looking bloody lovely. Foil tape, so this is the 100mm stuff, picked up from Tool Station. It's a £6.50 or something for this like 20m, 30m roll. So really good gear. So what we do is, you see I put the first bit on the front. So all this does is, it just prevents moisture, should it ever try to come through, coming through the wood and getting into your floor. So by foil taping it, because you've got the foil tape on the PIR, it now means you've got a completely waterproof surface. So the trick with this stuff is, especially if you're doing it on your own, if you've got two people, one can sort of hold one end and kind of guide it stuff. But what I tend to find is, if you kind of just get one end started, and this is where having nails actually pays off. Towards the fiddly bit. So just get yourself like a bit of a start on it. And this stuff is sticky as anything, so try not to let it stick to itself. Overlap, so I'm going about 50% wood, 50% PIR. Just get yourself enough that it's going to kind of hold it in place. And then what I'll do is, I'll run the length. So I can just get it there, I know that's exactly where it's going to be. Tear it off, done. Now I know that's the perfect length. It's a lot more easier to manage, and I can literally just run through now, peeling and sticking. So at this point, again, you just kind of just gently guiding it as you go, just to make sure it sort of stays where you need it to stay. Like I say, all you're doing is building a waterproof membrane. It is over the top, it is belts and braces, but like I always say, while you're here doing it, do it right. Lump a bit there, give it that a bit. And this is a nice, easy way of doing it. I mean, you could put, say, you could chuck a DPC over the top or something like that. You could put breathable membrane on top of it, but upside down, so you've got a waterproof layer, stopping moisture coming through, but it can breathe out. But you know, this stuff is absolutely brilliant. So there are different ways of doing it. I think the most important thing is, as long as you're doing something, that's the take home here. So just with this last little bit coming across here. And also another top tip is clean up as you go. So once I kind of get this bit off here, what I will then do is get rid of the paper immediately. Because what's easy to do, you just kind of think, just leave it there, that's fine, and then do the rest of it. And you've got tons of the stuff to pick up. So now, dig out, chuck it in the bin, start the next row. So I'll run that through the centre, I'll run it through all the joists, and then that is it. One highly waterproof, highly water resistant floor. You're not going to get moisture coming up anyway, because the wood essentially is off the deck, so you've got air flowing underneath. That's the beauty about the rod system. Like I say, just over the top, belts and braces, job done, keeps me happy, I can sleep well at night now. Perfect. And that was quite quick, wasn't it? Started halfway through. I was halfway through tape. I thought, do you know what? I'll do a time lapse because that'd be a nice little intermediary. So I hope you enjoyed that half of it. But there you go. That is it all now taped up and beautiful, one sealed unit of a surface. So gonna go have a bite to eat and come back and start putting some boards down. Very exciting. So yeah, this is gonna be a nice finished raised deck for them for the weekend, so they can come up here, have a cold Cinzano, gin and tonic, Pernod, Ouzo, whatever's your favourite really, so they can enjoy that for the weekend. But yeah, looking forward to getting this floor down, and you'll see that in a minute. Flooring. Right, so you can see here I'm planning. It's very good to plan. So what I'm doing is I'm using a full board right from the very end all the way through, because I made sure there's going to be a joist sitting there and at this end as well. There's a tiny little bit there, but that makes no difference. There'll be loads of little offcuts that I can use to finish that off. But what I want to do is I want to make sure that all my boards finish on a joist. That's the most important part. I mean, I say it's the most important part. It isn't, because it's tongue and groove. So if you have got it and you haven't lined it up and they're floating over a joint, well, not over a joint, just kind of across the PAR, it's not a problem. So I apologise for that. But I kind of plan it so I like to sort of, if you can, it's great to have it sitting on the joist because it just removes any possibility of flex and stuff like that. But like I say, it's not absolute. It's just me being over-engineered again. But so there you go. But that's what I'm trying to do, is basically make sure I can hit a joist at the end of every one. So what I'm going to do is, I've screwed this one down. So what I've done is I pushed these two tight together, lined them up at the front, so it's basically the same. And then what I do is I grab a level, a nice big level, put it across that joint, and then you can see there is no gap down either side. The other way to do this is to grab one of the boards and just put it on and sort of shimmy it up to it, push it tight, and that way you know that the boards are going to sort of run level and true, and there'll be very little gap in between the boards. You do end up with some gaps as you kind of go along. Again, you're working with wood, slight deviations, etc, etc, but where you can, just got to double check things, and you know if it does deviate out, it's not your fault, it's just the materials. So that's that done. What I then do is, this one's now perfectly in position, so I've just stuck 4 screws in it just to stop it from wiggling and jiggling. I will then get my 5-minute glue, open up this joint now, glue through there, push this one tight to this one, and then I will then cut this one where I need to over there because it's overhanging, and this one's going to start on this joist, so I'll just like chop that end off and then glue that joint across there, push it in, screw it down. And what I'll then do is I'll screw this board as much as I need to as well. Actually, I'll tell a lie. What I will do is I'll get them all in position, held with like 4 screws on each one, glue them all, and then I'm going to show you another little trick about how to get your screws in and stuff like that, which is quite cool. I like it. So that's what I'm going to do. Glue them, cut them, screw them in just so they're all held, and then I'll come along and I'll just whack all the screws down afterwards. Right, better get cracking. That's not too bad, that is it? Right. One bit of floor, all laid. So there it is, it's down. But oh no, look what some donuts gonna have done. Look, they've overshot the edges and all that kind of thing. Rough buggers. But you can already see my plan in action. So basically just get your boards in, don't worry about like getting it perfectly neat. Like I said, we lined at the front, so that's one less cut to do on that. That's telling a lie as well, because the overhang, so I'm gonna trim this part off as well. But basically, swing it all over, no bother at all, and then get yourself a chalk line. Again, tool station, is it 13 quid for like the line and like the chalk and that? My one broke. And then put a nail in down the far end, wherever you want to sort of start. Nail in at the end, hook the chalk line onto it, bring it all the way across, pin it to where you can see the end of the board is, and then ping, done. I now just run that down with the circular saw. Done the same for the angle at the back. Follow that, ping that line, so that's all pinged. So that now, once I've trimmed it, we'll then follow the rhombus floor all the way through. It's a simple thing in life, it really is. Oh, and this won't work if it's pissing it down with rain. Chalk and water, they don't like each other very much. But another little top tip that I forgot to mention earlier. So when you're gluing all these joints, wear gloves, right? Because this stuff, so normally I try and get hold of the 5-minute glue, but they didn't have it in stock. So I shall show you. This stuff is brilliant. Again, tool station. I can't remember how much it was, about 8, 10 quid, something like that. So one tube will do, well, I've done all this floor, 5 by 3, and there's plenty more there to start the old roof off. But once it gets in your fingers, it's a bitch to get off. Like, you'll have it on there for days, I kid you not. And when it's tacky, it'll pick up every bit of dirt and crap and grease. It'll make your hands look black and you'll just be sticky and it'll all be horrible. So wear gloves, because it'll save you a lot of arseache later on. So there you go, another little top tip for you. So what I'm going to do now is grab the old saw down there, run that line, and I'll just go across, do the same that end, and I'll just trim this little front edge off across here, and that is it, done. You can also see that obviously all the boards are completely offset to one another. There's no boards like sat like the same, so you haven't got a full board there and then a full board straight and a full board there. You want to kind of get a good overhang, because that's where you'll get your strength from. So the fact it's glued and screwed, perfect. So that's it. I'm going to run these through, and then that'll be it for a bit. Hello. It's been a whole 10 minutes or 10 seconds, so I thought I'd get back on. Excuse me. Right, there you have it. The deck is now completely in. All the edges are now trimmed. It's now the exact shape. It's now glued. It's now screwed. And looking good. Bit of muck back, anyone? Well, I sound like Cronin. I've got Irish blood, but yeah, I don't think I can pull that off. So basically, that is it now, completely finished for this section. The trick for the screws and how to figure out where to line them up is very simple. See here, you can see where we've nailed the joist. So we know right there is going to be a joist, and we know the difference is going to be from the edge is 400, because that's where we spaced them. So then we just keep taking those measurements, measure 400 off of that one at the top, boom, draw your line through, and just rinse and repeat, because you can always tell exactly where your joists are going to be. Simple, isn't it? So perfect. So what I'll do now is clear up, and that'll mean that on Monday it'll be building the walls, which is going to be bloody good fun. I know I say that for every part, but it's true. I just love all of it. But now actually getting those walls erected and up just really gives it its sort of shape now, and gives you that kind of really three-dimensional environment where you can walk in and go, oh, this is a large space. Because even now the client is saying, you know, it's such a bigger space than you think. When you just kind of get the frame in, it looks big. It's the kind of, you see the perimeter, you can sort of imagine it, but once you get the deck in, absolutely brilliant. So they can now start planning roughly where like the sofas are going to go, TVs. They can use this deck for the weekend now, like I said earlier, have a couple of cold beers on there, a couple of gin and tonics. Happy days, absolutely amazing. So that is it. If you like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, leave a comment, tell me if you like what you're seeing. Got any questions? Ping them on over. Always happy to answer questions. And for all of you people who've made it this far and are leaving me comments saying, oh, you should try this, Steve, you should do this way. Thank you, because every day's a school day and I don't know everything, and there's always little tips and tricks that I would really like to pick up. So please, if you've got any suggestions for things that you think, oh, Steve, you could probably do that a bit easier, a bit quicker, comment down below, because I'm not just teaching you guys, I want to learn stuff as well. It's a two-way street. So anyway, whatever you're up to, have a great weekend, and I'll be back bright and breezy Monday. See you later.